and welcome to today's podcast. And we're going all the way to Paris, France today. So welcome and please introduce yourself, because I'm terrible in French pronunciation. So even your name, I have to give it to you. Welcome.
Thanks a lot for having me, Jan. So, my French name is Guillaume Moubeche, but everyone calls me G. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called Lempire, and one of our most famous SaaS is Lemlist, which is a tool that helps people acquire new customers. We started in 2018. Now we have tens of thousands of customers worldwide. The vast majority of our market is US based, and we recently sold 20% of our business for $30 million, so at a $150 million valuation.
Oh wow, that's very impressive. Yeah. So let's try to find out what you did to make this successful in today's. I guess the session is too short to go into all the details, but maybe high level for the listeners. What did you do to make this successful? How did you find a product market fit? And well, I have a lot of questions, but let's get started with how did you come up with the idea?
So before starting Lemlist, actually I had like a lead generation agency. So I was helping a lot of companies with their sales prospecting. I had companies mainly in Europe and in the US. And after testing, all the tools on the market, what I figured out is that everyone was talking about automation, which was really like the buzzword at the time with AI, machine learning, etc. But when you actually do the work and you do the work of sales prospecting, you realize that not everything can be automated, and that personalization is what actually matters whenever you want to reach out to people, because in the end, what matters is the relationship that you are building. So I thought like, okay, maybe we can enter that market, but instead of, focusing on all the automation part, keep the automation that needs to be kept, but at least like focus and create a product much more oriented towards personalization. So by adding extra features that would help our users get better replies and more meetings. So we started in 2018 in a very crowded market. So regarding to your question about the product market fit, I do feel like whenever you're starting in a crowded market, the product market fit already exists. It's just your role to become better than competition in order for you to get that traction. Right. So for us in the early days, it was all about differentiation. So finding a clear positioning that would help us get those first users so they can see the value of our product.
Yeah. Okay. And I've seen with nearly all successful SaaS companies that the founder has personally encountered the problem himself or herself, and then figures out there has to be a better way to address this. It sounds like that happened to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is something that is undervalued a lot, especially in bootstrap startup, which is what I call like the product founder fit or the founder market fit. And to me, I think it's 10 times easier when you face the actual problem to build something that solves this, because at least you know that you are the target of what you're building. And you know that if you're solving a problem for yourself, there are potentially thousands of people who are facing the exact same problem. And for me, starting with something niche and then expand is always better than starting, on something that, where you've run tens of user interviews and you believe that a problem exists. You need to be aware of it and you need to know it, because especially in the early days when I think it's the toughest to acquire customers, you have a lot of downs. It's like a real roller coaster. You need to be ready to, believe in your mission, believe in what you do, so you can actually last longer and down the line get that traction that then drive the hyper growth.
Okay. And so taking a step back, who is your typical a customer today?
So today we focus mainly on scale-up, SMBs, sales teams. So we have basically like sales team from scale up going from, let's say, 5 to 50 or 60 people. And we also have a lot of agencies who are basically running campaigns for their clients. So we see a lot of companies asking for agencies to set up meeting for them. So they just have like closers in-house, and all those agencies love to use our product also.
Okay, so let's say I am with 5 people now, and I want to grow to 50. Then what does your product specifically do to help with that?
So basically, like the product is gonna help sales team go on LinkedIn, find out the person that they want to reach out to, select like a list of those persons, and then automate the engagement, whether it's via email or LinkedIn message, etc. So your sales team is basically being able to kind of like automate, but at the same time really personalize the outreach to people who are in your target audience. And our product is basically helping your sales grow, essentially.
Okay, cool. So that means that it's basically getting more appointments for the sales team.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, that sounds like a great solution. So was it difficult as a French company to get into? You mentioned you have a lot of customers in the US. Was it difficult to get into the US as a French company, or was it pretty easy to do?
It's actually a good question. I think what helped us in the early days is the fact that I was doing a lot of sales prospecting before. So when I got started, I was still based in Paris, and I was wondering, like, okay, there is 24 hours, and somewhere in the world, like when it's late in France, it's the middle of the afternoon. So right now, for example, for you, it's the morning. For me, it's late afternoon. So I just decided, okay, I'm gonna run sales prospecting campaign, but on different regions. So I did APAC with Australia, Singapore, etc. I was doing Europe, and I was doing also like the US. So in the morning in France, I had like demos with Australia. In the middle of the day, it was Europe. And at night, it was the US. And what I realized down the line is that people in the US, especially when we were really early stage, they were much more willing to test very innovative tools versus French people who were like mainly, I'm French, so I can call it like this, cheap bastards. So essentially, like people would just be, doing the 2-week free trial in France, and then after the 2 weeks, they would ask for another 2 weeks extension, etc. Whereas in the US, they would be saying like, you know what, like I want to try your tool, I'm gonna pay, and if it works, I will keep paying. So I really enjoyed like this mindset of being much more straightforward, much more, like I'm ready to invest money. If it brings me more money, I'm happy with it. And basically that's why we kind of like started expanding there, because this is where we started to have much more traction.
Okay, cool. And so you had a great idea, and you tested it, it worked. Then how do you scale something like that? How do you go from where you were back then to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So until basically 1 million in ARR, I was doing in annual recurring revenue, I was doing pretty much like everything on my own on the business side. So my strategy was actually first things first was eating my own dog food. So using my product as much as possible. All the sales prospecting campaign, I would have 2 different approaches. One which would be direct sales. So I'm basically reaching out to people, trying to build relationships, and then having them become customers. And the other approach was content driven. Right. So for example, I would reach out to head of growth at scale-ups, and I would ask them, for example, to just have a networking call with me so we can discuss what were their challenges when it comes to outbound, how did they have solved these issues, and that we could share best practices. By doing so, I would get really good insights from my target audience on the pain points they have. Based on that, I would create the content to solve their problem. I would publish that content on the blog, then send them back to them, and then after that, invite them in a community that I was building at the same time in order for users to talk about like sales prospecting. And step by step, like this growth circle of me showcasing exactly the campaigns, that I was running with the exact results, plus, like talking about all the topics that were interesting, for my audience, plus the community where I was essentially like putting people together who had the same problem and helping them solve that, was kind of what started this growth engine and helped us scale to 1 million. Right. And after that, this is when I started to hire like a a bigger team. So someone in sales to start doing exactly the same thing that I was doing, someone in marketing so they can help with the content, someone in support, and then after that the team scaled, and today we're about like 60 people or something.
Okay. Oh wow. And so I guess the first people you can just train by yourself. So you hire somebody, you tell them this is how we do the business. But when you go towards 60 people, then how do you train and manage the sharing the knowledge and the actions that they need to do to make the business successful?
There are like several things. So the first is everyone who enter our business has to go through the training that I built, and those are like master classes that I usually sell around like $1,000. And this master class is just like video courses plus action plan that you should take in order to become better at sales prospecting. So my idea is that everyone would join our business, no matter if they are like in support or in sales or in marketing, they have to use the product. They have to understand what our users are doing. And this is part of everyone's onboarding. So this is basically like the first step to kind of like be trained on the product and on the company. Then we also have like internal onboarding. So depending on each department, we centralize everything in Notion with the processes and all the knowledge that is there for people to get started and get onboarded. And each department then have a checklist of tasks that people need to complete during their first months of being with us. After that, we also have like one thing that I've called, so the company is called Lempire, and all our projects start with Lem. So we have a internal coaching program that I run, which is called Lemtastic, which is helping people to become basically fantastic and the best at what they can do.
Okay.
And it's basically like an internal coaching where I help people developing their personal brand and building their own audience. And to do so, they basically focus on their area of expertise. So if you're working in marketing, the audience you're going to build online is going to be around marketing. If you're working in branding, it's going to be around branding, copywriting, around copywriting, etc., etc. And my idea behind that is what I found out as a founder is that the more you write and the more you teach to others, the better you become at explaining things.
Right.
And you know, like as soon as you start making all the information you've learned your own and you share it, this is when you start becoming an expert.
Okay.
And by doing so, I'm basically pushing the entire team to level up on their skills and start building their audience, which also down the line and ultimately bring a lot of eyeballs on the company and hence more users, and down the line also more talents.
Okay, wow. So you mentioned that Notion is an important tool, and videos that you share with the team.
Yeah, exactly. We host everything on Podia, where it's basically like where we sell the masterclass, and people can go through like the courses and the videos and basically tutorials that they can go through, and an action plan that where they have to perform a certain task. Okay.
Oh wow, cool. And so I think Notion is a great tool to share knowledge. Do you use the same tool that people also keep track of their progress? So you know that they went through step 1 and then step 2 and those kind of things? How does that work?
At the moment, to keep track of things, for the master classes, it's pretty easy because on Podia, we can really see like who completed or not. On Notion, what we try to do is for each manager to kind of like track, and it's basically like to-do lists. So each person has their own to-do list and they have to kind of like check the boxes when they've done it.
Right.
We can clearly see like the one who do it or not. And usually if they don't, it means that it's not really a fit for the company. And it happens, you know, like from time to time you make like bad hires, but we try always like to push people towards like success.
Okay. So would you say that is the key to success of your company is really how do you take the knowledge of you as a founder and then transfer it into knowledge and actions of the team?
I think it's a mix, you know, like to me, like the success of any business lies down in the execution. As a founder, you should lead with example. So I always try, you know, like I've done content in the past, I've done sales, I've done marketing, but I know that I want to hire people who are like much better than me. So instead of just transferring my knowledge, I think it's better for me to transfer a mindset and to make people understand the mission. Once people really understand the mission and understand that we're working on something that's greater than ourselves, then people, if they have the good mindset of always learning, always challenging themselves, then they become like much better at what they're doing than I am.
Right.
And this is, I think, the key to the success.
Oh, wow.
When you can make people better than what you are and what you can do.
Okay, yeah. So hire better people than you are, and then transfer the knowledge.
Exactly.
Okay. Oh wow, that's very cool. And so you mentioned you quickly turned to the US as a primary target group, and that sort of came by accident because of the time zone difference. Would you say that Europe in general is a little bit behind on software as a service and online products, or is it something else that's going on?
No, I think like you're absolutely right when it comes to like the adoption of SaaS and software as a service, or like software in general. Europe is behind. Like that's clearly a fact. Like it started in the US. A lot of people there, you know, are like much more used to it. I think like people in the US really love tech, whereas in Europe we still have a lot of people who don't understand it, who don't see the value, or who just have these self-limiting beliefs that tech is there to replace people, which is not the case, or all these things, you know, like that basically when you're a fast-growing startup are the things you don't want to spend time on. Because if your only goal is to, you know, like spend years and years to educate a market, it's gonna take way too long to scale.
Right.
However, in markets like the US who are just ready to buy and who have also like a great purchasing power, everything go faster.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And it also sounded from your introduction that the way you finance your company is quite different than the traditional. Let's say in the US, the traditional way of doing things is you have an idea, then you go to friends and family. They give you, let's say, a few $100,000. You start working on your idea, then you go to a VC, you do a pre-seed round, you get a couple of $1 million in the company and some shareholders and board members. But it sounds like you took a different approach to this. Can you talk about that?
Yes, so I started the company with $1,000.
Oh, wow.
So it was not much. And at first, in full transparency, I actually went to see investors and VCs. I didn't have friends and family who had money, to be honest. Like my parents, like don't have like fancy jobs or anything. Like I grew up with, I didn't lack of anything, but my parents were not like super rich or anything. So when I went to see like the investors, they were all laughing at me. They were like, "You want to go international? You're French. No one knows you. You have like a strong accent. Like what the fuck? Who are you? You know, like."
Yeah.
And I think they were right back then. You know, and I would understand. I wouldn't have bet, you know, on myself. So at first, my ambition, in full transparency, was really low. My goal was just, you know, like to work on something I love and just try to make enough money so my girlfriend at the time don't have to pay the rent on her own. And step by step, you know, I started just to focus because after 3 weeks of talking to investors and being kind of like sick of getting like doors on my face, I just had like one person who I had helped in the past who messaged me and said, "Hey G," it was basically like a guy in Australia who said me like, "Hey G, like I'm super pumped. I just closed like a $20,000 deal from a campaign you helped me set up. Super excited, just hired like a new person to join and help with the team." And from that point on, I was like, okay, like I'm really like changing life of people who are tens of thousand kilometers away. Like
Right.
this is the power of what we're building, and I want to focus just on that feeling and trying to do things that will recreate that feeling. So I focused on that, and very quickly we started having like a bit of traction. We ended up number one on Product Hunt. And then, you know, like after that, you know, it just was a lot of hard work, dedication, and step by step, we came to a point where VCs and investors starting reaching out a lot, starting, you know, asking for us to meet. But on my end, I wanted to be focused on the business. I wanted to do things the way I like. And step by step, you know, we came to like a spot where we're actually like really, really like profitable. and having more money will not solve the problem that we are facing. So for me, it was just not even a question of getting more money to speed things up, because I wouldn't be able to like spend it wisely. And doing like whatever we are doing, it's been basically working really well. So I just wanted to focus on that, focus on the team. And when we crossed $10 million in annual recurring revenue about like 6 months ago or something, or a bit less, I don't know, I don't remember. Yeah, 6 months-ish ago, we decided to sell like 20% of the company, just because for us, we wanted to de-risk and think, okay, you know what, with the money of this 20% sale, technically we don't have to work ever again. So now it's only like really enjoying what we are doing and focusing on being even more ambitious in what we do. And that's kind of like the whole story and where we ended up where we are today.
Oh wow, that's a very impressive way to finance a business in getting started. Cool. And so are you still mainly focused on the US, or are you now also reaching out to other territories?
Right now we are like in about 85 countries, 86 I think right now at the moment, to be precise.
Oh wow.
So it depends, like our content and all our inbound strategy with the community, etc., is really global. There is no limit to that. However, whenever we do outbound, we have like this focus on the US market, and also in some areas in Europe where we know that there are a lot of really good agencies who are running like campaigns for the US.
Okay, cool. And would you say that your company is mainly a knowledge-based company or a technology-based company?
It's a good question. I do feel like we have the right balance between both. I don't want to call us like just like a tech-based company, because okay, even though we are like selling software, I do feel like like the things we are working on are not like did not require like 10 years of R&D, for example.
Right.
However, we do have some technical aspect of the product that are like really deep and that requires a bit of R&D. It's not like pure R&D company, but it's not like the other way around. It's not something you could create with no code, for example.
Right. Okay. So it's a good balance and mix between turning knowledge into action, using software as sort of the medium to do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. That's a nice thing to do. And is your software mainly based on the English language in those 85 territories, or is it a completely multilingual setup that you're running?
We had actually developed something that allow us to kind of like do multi-language, etc. But in the end, we came back from it, just because what we realized for now is that, for example, we had entirely translated like the app in French and started creating content in French, etc. But we realized that it was every time we were doing something, it was doubling the amount of work, and all the person who came to use our software who could not understand like the English version and wanted it in a specific language would actually be really like low techy type of customers, which means that they would essentially be a pain in the butt for our support team.
Right.
Because to be honest, like our software is very easy to use. It's like the world that you need to understand is email, which is like I think an international world.
Yeah.
Templates, which can be translated into many languages, but in the end it was like pretty easy to use, and we went back from this switch of having the tool in every single language.
Okay, impressive, yeah. And I think what I'm hearing is that a lot of European companies think it's tough to go international, but it sounds like you just did it and made it happen. And I remember when I went to the US, I really tried to get a coach to fix my I have a bit of a Dutch accent, and after 3 years of being here, one of my customers said, the reason I bought from you is because you have a funny accent, and we believe actually that's a good thing. So I realized after many years of being here, it's not an issue at all to have an accent.
Yeah, and I think I'm the good representation of it. I know that I've got like a strong French accent as well. So yeah, I do feel like, to be honest, at first I was trying to hide it, trying to push on the American accent, etc., etc. But then I was like, okay, if someone doesn't want to buy something that is helping them to solve a problem just because I have an accent, then do I really want to be in business with that person anyway?
Yeah.
And my answer is like, no, I love to work with people with accent from different parts of the world. I love the fact that we have a tool that helps to connect people from everywhere in the world, and people who are not, like sharing the same mindset
Yeah.
should not be our customers anyway. So I'm happy with that. If it can be, like a way to kind of like split with people who have a narrow-minded mindset,
Yeah.
then I'm fine with it.
Okay, cool. And so looking back at your journey, going from just by yourself to now 60 people, let's say I'm a startup and I have a great idea, and I want to do the same. What would your advice be to yourself when you started the business to better be in control of scaling it?
I think what I would recommend, the biggest thing that has helped me, I think, like to grow faster, was to document everything along the way.
Right.
Everyone is aware of Marco Polo as being, the one who discovered like the Silk Road.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, like, Marco Polo did not discover the Silk Road. Before him, there were thousands of Venetian merchants that had gone through the exact same road with even more adventures when they started. But Marco Polo was the first one to document everything.
Right.
And I feel like whenever you're on your journey, this is the exact same thing. The more you document, the more you're going to bring people with you on the journey,
Right.
the more you're going to build an audience.
Yeah.
And for you, it's going to help you clear your mind and have really a lot of clarity
Yeah.
on what you've done, what you could have done better, and how to improve and what are the next steps. Also, building everything in public gives you a ton of accountability, which means that stating that, for example, at the end of the year, you need to reach 10K MRR or 100K MRR or whatever,
Yeah.
it gives you, this need to think backward after that. So it's like, okay, I've stated this big and ambitious goal. How do I get there?
Yeah.
What do I need to do? And that breaks things into like much simpler steps, and give yourself accountable and be able to reach actually those objectives. So for me, like, my advice would be like, start doing that from the early days.
Right.
Because before Lemlist, actually I had other businesses, and I wasn't documenting anything,
Right.
which means that when they failed, I was left with nothing.
Right.
But if you document everything, you build an audience, etc., and your business fails,
Yeah.
at least you have an audience. At least you have something you can rebuild on. At least you have met so many amazing people. So become the person you'd like to meet, and after that, everything's gonna be smooth and the growth will follow, in my opinion.
Okay. Wow. So document everything so that you have a repeatable and scalable process that other people can then take from you and apply.
Yeah, definitely, and do this publicly also. So you build your audience at the same time, and people, sometimes when they find something that works, they feel that they have to keep it, like it's a secret and it's their secret sauce or whatever. The truth is, like, sharing it would position you as a thought leader,
Yeah.
and would benefit you 100 times more than keeping in it and pretending that this is something unique, because in the end,
Yeah.
there's probably like already thousands of people doing it without you even knowing.
Right. And so the fear of a lot of people is, if I document it publicly, is my competitors going to copy me? Is that something you encountered, or was that not an issue at all?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have people copying you, but I think it's part of life,
Right.
To me, there is nothing unique. Even if you look at when cars were invented, okay, like you can see, okay, car, it's very unique, but no, actually, it's because before that we had wheels, then we have a motor, then we had like all these things to build a car, and then someone came up by just assembling ideas.
Yeah.
So copying, even some people are really like proper copycat, and they take everything from you, the landing page, etc., etc.
Right.
The truth with it is that if you followed my first advice of documenting everything,
Yeah.
there is one thing that people will never be able to steal from you, is your story.
Right.
Because this is unique. This is unique to you. And when someone copy, at first I was really pissed off. But then now I just think, you know what? If they are copying us, it's good sign, you know, like it means that we are doing something right.
Right.
And for others who are like watching you, etc., it also shows a great signal, because people who are copied are usually the one who are winning in the end.
Yeah.
So it's like I think you need to just like accept that, and when you see other people copying you, simply try to level up and always be one step ahead.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the lesson here is don't be afraid of people copying you. That should be considered as a compliment, but in the process document what you're doing so that it becomes a repeatable and scalable process within your organization. But I also like your ideas on company mission and vision, and that you sort of have a name like Lemtastic. I think that's something that not all companies, and maybe it sounds a little bit cheesy, but I think putting that into the company as a mission is a great way to build a mentality and maybe a spirit of this is how we think and live in this organization. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, like it is cheesy, like, but the truth is like I'm someone who's super cheesy, like, and
Right.
for a long time, you know, like a lot of people would use like cheesy as something that could be negative or whatever, but for me it's super positive.
Yeah.
I love, you know, when a movie ends, you know, really great, and the ending is awesome, everyone's happy. Like, I love this type of things, and this is the vibe I want to have in the company. And I think the more you have a strong culture and you try everyone's around you to have the same culture, the better you'll strive. And this is great, you know, like to be able to work with like-minded people and people with the same mindset.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so I like that part as well. That you shouldn't try to be somebody else as a founder when you're running your business. Put your own spirit and mentality into the company and grow on that. Cool.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I've learned a few things. Mainly, document what you're doing and to scale a company, make it a repeatable process that you can scale out with your employees.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. We're at the 30-minute mark, so that's always our goal. To thank you very much, and very nice to learn more about your business.